There are those that just want to be left alone, and those that just won't leave them alone. Which one are you? The Ernest Hancock Show.
Welcome back to Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, here in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, and Tempe, Arizona, where Dr. Paul is right now at Arizona State University. What I wanted to do is I'm just going to, we have William Buford online, and he's graciously allowed us to go for just a minute or so. I want to play for you what Dr. Paul did from the House floor yesterday. Let's go ahead and do that real quick so you can get an idea of what's going on.
I rise this evening to announce that I introduced some legislation today dealing with the calamity that we have found at our airports with TSA. Something has to be done. Everybody's fed up. The people are fed up. The pilots are fed up. I'm fed up. You know, I've come to this floor many times over the past many years and complained about the terrible foreign policy we've had, the terrible monetary policy we had, the excessive spending and the debt, and also the tax policy. But what we're doing and what we're accepting and putting up with at this airport is so symbolic of us just not standing up and saying enough is enough. I know the American people are starting to wake up, but our government, those in charge, Congress as well as the executive branch, are doing nothing. Yes, they're talking about...
Yeah, and he goes on to say he's a big fan of this... opting out thing, and it's starting to build up to a point. It's things like this that bring about changes like what we're talking about with my good friend Bill Buford. Now, Bill, go ahead and help me out here. There's a lot of things you're going to be talking about that's going to be, I guess this won't be lost on anybody, this issue. Am I correct?
No, I don't think so. I think it's really... it's the nice thing about this particular issue is that it's animated across the political spectrum. Whether you're a lefty or a righty or a collectivist or an individualist, you can find folks among them, mostly among our ilk, though, Ernie, who find this repulsive.
Repulsive is a good word. It's more than that. I mean, it's aside from the fact that the type of people that are going to be fondling you and so on, it's the mindset behind it. It's this idea that you have to appear naked before the king, or to travel, or you get groped by the king's men. I'm just going. This is much deeper understanding of a much larger problem. What would you think that problem is, and how this is just a manifestation of it? What's being manifested?
Well, Ernie, what this whole thing leads to, and it's interesting the way you say naked before the king, because you and I both know that this present emperor and all the emperors before him for most of the 20th century don't have any clothes, and that your program, ever since you've been doing it, has been dedicated to the disrobing in front of the American people of why those clothes don't exist and why we have obeisance, allegiance, and pledging fealty to people who don't have our best welfare in mind, period. And I think what this also is, it's horrific, the groping, the porno scanner, all of that, but what it all comes down to me is that it's about conditioning. It's about making sure that submission is ultimate and complete, much like when you and I have the misfortune of traveling on an American airline today. When you and I are in that fuselage, we're at the mercy 100% of the time to federal regulations that are both foolish and one could say capricious in the way they're administered. If you talk badly to a stewardess, you'll find yourself in cuffs and maybe even a cage when you hit the ground. Or worse yet, if there's a U.S. Marshal on board, you may be making your way across the tarmac and it'll shoot you in the back 3 times.
Don't laugh, man. I mean, it's likely that there is going to be some. That's one thing that we brought up with the people that were here from law enforcement here in Phoenix is that we said, look, we've done this before, and there's always that one guy wearing the bandana that's, over there in his police issue boots. And they do, and we point out, I mean, this has happened all over the country. You go, look, that guy is the provocateur. That guy's, and all of a sudden he kind of gets behind the officers and he slips out through a security door. And we brought this up and said, look, we'll be more than happy to point out who we perceive to be the real threat, whether they're, just general public or us or somebody got in our ranks or what are you going to do? I mean, you'll have all these people say, oh, he's got a gun, this guy's got a sign, he's got his face hat blue, he's wearing a V mask and, a kilt, and you'll go, oh, got to see ID. And we're going, you know what? We want that guy right there. Does our opinion mean anything to him? They weren't comfortable with that. That kind of took them by surprise. They didn't know what to say to that. You think they're around the country? Do you think there may be a concern, a legitimate concern we might have for some kind of provocateuring going on?
I think that if you look at the ranks of the militia, the revolutionary organizations on both sides, if they ever have a meeting, you can be guaranteed that more than half the membership in that meeting, wherever it may be, is comprised of confidential informants, provocateurs, and government agent actuals who are there trying to provoke a number of things. I mean, you remember the Viper militia, you remember a number of things like that. The government is always looking for these kind of mini Reichstags in which they can frame people. But, I think it's worse than that, Ernie. If people have read my blog, which is at hezekiahwyman.com, or read my stuff on Lew Rockwell, you know that I don't have a very favorable view of the police. And there are many reasons for that, because I would contend that if it weren't for police and tax collectors, we would be living in a free country as we speak. But once you allow those two entities to exist from the local to the federal level, then, the ultimate enslavement of everybody is on the table. But what's worse, this is anecdotal. I read an article on Lew Rockwell where this man talked about his pregnant wife being groped and crying after being groped, and he let loose and he yelled at one of the TSA agents. They cuff him. They put him in one of the cells in the jail. And it turns out with the story he related was completely different from the story that was filed in the police report. The bottom line is that no matter what happens with this, the police have the ability, and the court system has the ability, to make sure that their truth is the one that sees through and not that of what actually happened. So, it's like you've talked about, Ernie. We live in a police state because a police state, definitionally, is where all citizens are subject to capricious arrest for various malum prohibitum crimes, but the police and all their compadres quite literally ultimately have a license to kill and get away with it.
Yeah, I tell you where you come in the Freedom Summit. I want you to go ahead and give yourself your short bio, because whenever I do it, I always say too much. So what we're going to go ahead and do, I'll go ahead and have you give your short bio. But what really is going to be of interest to a lot of people there, and you'll get to talk about whatever you want to talk about. But you're starting to see why I always wait until just like 10 days or 14 days before we start posting exactly what everybody's going to be talking about. Because I'm going, are you kidding me? It's always some big giant woohoo going. What if we put it up last month or the month before or even last week? This TSA thing wouldn't even been on the radar.
Exactly.
So this always happens. Everybody, and I know you and the speaker, well, what am I talking about? What are you going to have me do? What do you want to put on the thing? I need to have my speech told. I need to tell people I'm going, look, man, I guarantee the entire planet will change in 2 days anyway. So, just stop. So let's go ahead, and I want you to go ahead and give out your own bio. And we've been showing up on the video here, your archive over at Lew Rockwell and such. And we got your picture up here, ain't you party? And then we'll go ahead and talk about what you want to share with the Freedom Summit. But let's go ahead and get your bio first.
Okay, thank you for that, Ernie. And by the way, it's an honor for you to have invited me to speak at the summit. And I really appreciate the opportunity to do so. My bio is very brief. I'm a retired Army officer. I retired to Idaho, and then I emigrated down here to Arizona, and I have been interested in a number of things. I am also a gunfighting instructor, a shooting instructor. I'm an itinerant writer. I've written for Lew Rockwell. I maintain my own blog, and of course I also maintain a day job so that I can pay for my homeschooled family and such. And what I'm going to talk about on Sunday, the title of my presentation is The End of America, the Coming De-Sovietization of these United States.
Ooh. Yep. See? Freedom Summit. FreedomSummit.com. Make sure you guys go check it out, because it's going to be a rip-roaring good time. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back here on Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, and an independence declaring kind of guy, William Buford. We'll be right back.